right now Michigan needs more than backups. They need to fill out their roster with some good players around Caleb Love so that he is not just jacking shots left and right like he was at Carolina.
Yeah, it was like they were hiring for the starting 4 position, and the only qualification was, are you better than Terrence Williams? And they're like, you got the job immediately. Yeah. Like, yeah, that's not what we needed. We needed an impact guy. But from what I've heard, Jeff, I'm going to pull it from what I've heard on you right now. I'm clearly not a source guy, but from what I've heard, they're still recruiting. They're at 14 scholarship players right now, and they're still recruiting the portal.
Well, that means there'll be some guys that do not get their scholarships renewed.
Correct.
Which is going on everywhere. I mean, it's a shit show right now. You should hear the calls I'm getting from coaches right now. It's the worst it's ever been. I had one coach call me yesterday. He goes, my friends, the guys I thought were my good friends, head coaches, are recruiting my players right now without telling me. Like, it's that bad right now.
Yeah, it's brutal. It's brutal. It's crazy times in this sport. All right, I'm going to throw the diabolical, twisted question at you here.
Go ahead.
Does the addition of Caleb Love put any thought in Hunter Dickinson's mind to return to Michigan?
I wouldn't think so. I would think, to be honest, if I'm a big, having watched Caleb Love over the last 2 years, I would not want to play with Caleb Love. And I don't mean to take a shot at Caleb Love, but let's face it, he is not a guy who constantly looks for big men to pass it to. The only way they're getting the ball is to get it off the rim when Caleb Love misses his shots.
That's true.
He's got to mature in his game. Again, he's got to mature in his game, but he needs a coach to help him mature in his game. I go back to it. Caleb Love can be so much fun to watch when he's making those contested step back threes. But again, when he's not, he can lose you games too. And that's where, and even the part, I remember last year, I don't know if you remember this, I ranked them number 2, like maybe last, I don't know, June or something like that. Before, who did I have won at the end? Was it Gonzaga? No, I don't remember who I put at 1. Somebody came back. Well, I think it was Carolina. I put it 1 at the end when they got Pete Nance. Okay. Everybody else had him 1. But I had him at 2 before they got Pete Nance. And he tweeted at me how disrespectful it was.
Oh, yes.
Remember that?
And I'm like, come on, man. Great day.
I got you at 2. Like, disrespectful. You had again, Carolina now, if you look at it over the last 2 years, they had one good month, really good, terrific month. And the other 8 of them were subpar. By Carolina's standards, they were bad. I'll give them subpar. I'll give them average. How's that? I'll give them average and be nice to them. And a lot of that was, was Caleb Love contributed to that. How could he not?
Yeah, I think that's kind. I think if we talk by North Carolina standards, I think it's a disaster. If we're talking Iowa Hawkeyes standards, I think they would say it's disappointing what UNC's done the last couple of years. So last thing I want to hit on before we wrap this up. So, Big Ten guy here. We've had a lot of Big Ten conversations within our network in general. What's wrong with this league's performance in March? Why do they struggle? The Purdue conversation, etc. This does seem, if you look at the ads Michigan has made, not just Caleb Love, but also Trey Jackson from Seton Hall, also Namari Burnett from Alabama, like Michigan on paper next year is going to actually have some athletes. Like if Terrace Reed starts at the 5, if they're playing the 3 guards together, stylistically, that is something that you don't see very often in the Big Ten. And if there's one thing to be excited about as a Michigan fan, for me, it would be that. Maybe that bodes well as a refreshing change of pace, both in the conference and potentially outside of it. Do you think that's a good shift for this program?
When I see it, I'll believe it. It's the same thing with Mike Woodson. When I see him play 2 bigs that aren't traditional bigs, I'll believe that they're changing their style. Until then, I'm not believing it. Juwan Howard was a traditional big. Do these guys understand that the game has changed? They should. I mean, you see it in the NBA, so you got to do it in college. But again, Indiana playing race and trace, Indiana getting, and I don't mean to make this an Indiana pod. I've talked way too much about the Hoosiers here, but there are some parallels, is all I'm saying, between Woodson and Juwan, right? Juwan, even in year 2, like I said, he was terrific, got to the Elite Eight. Woodson didn't get that far in the tournament, but people were like tweeting at me, don't compare Woodson to Juwan. And I'm like, wait, like, let's wait it out here, because Woodson could be Juwan in 2 or 3 years, and the Indiana program could be back to what it was, 4 years ago when it was completely irrelevant. I don't know if that's the way Michigan's going, but again, they barely got in the tournament 2 years ago or a year ago when they went to the Sweet 16, barely snuck in. I don't know what Juwan's record is in the last, since they went to the Elite Eight. We can look this up probably right now. Since they went to the Elite Eight, Greg, what is their Big Ten record? Can you tell me that?
Yeah, I'm pulling it up.
My
right
guess
now.
is it's 500.
It was 22-18. So yeah, above 500. 11-9 both years in the Big Ten.
11-9 both years. I mean, you're at Michigan. Like, it's got to be better than that. You're at Michigan. You have the brand. You have talent. I mean, look, now again, part of the talent was obviously COVID year, when he recruited some of those dudes, but one of which was his kid who he knew pretty well. And Buffkin turned out to be pretty good, right? Talent wise, he was great. He turned out to be pretty good too late. It was almost too late.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think in general, Michigan fans are stuck in a cycle right now where he was recruiting too well for his coaching to catch up, because they had the number 1 class in the country 2 years ago. Last year, again, pretty good class when Jet Howard overperformed what was expected of him. But to lose essentially 2 guys to the first round, or Moussa Diabate to the early second round, in back-to-back years from average teams, and I it's hard for me to say they weren't expecting that, because when you recruit Caleb Houston, you expect he's a one and done. When you recruit Moussa Diabate, you got to know there's a chance he's a one and done. But that's where it's hard for me, is now the recruiting has now jumped down. The only guy they got coming in is George Washington III, who's not an instant impact guy. And beyond that, Papa Conte.
He was the guy. He was the guy who was committed. He was committed to Ohio State, and I think Ohio State backed off him.
Holtman went the other direction. Right. He ends up at Michigan, which I like him long term, but they don't have instant impact guys coming in, is the point. And if they've been getting those guys the last few years, now you're in a spot where, okay, maybe it does make sense to bet your season on Caleb Love at that point. Because the more we talk about it, I'm looking at the rest of the roster like, who's going to use these possessions? Who's going to take these shots? I don't know, man. All right.
I don't know, but you're going to be able to sleep tonight? I mean, are you going to watch? You should just sit around today and watch Caleb Love tape all day, just to get ready.
Do you want my mental health to be in the worst spot possible, Jeff? Like, I'm going to need to find just a highlight reel. So
just watch the Duke game. Sure. Keep yourself to just the Duke game today.
Right.
That way you'll feel good about yourself, positive. He's making shots. They're smiling. Remember, I mean, that was a fun team to watch for about a month.
You're right. I mean, at the very least, I now have the guy who ended Coach K's career on my roster. I can claim that for the rest of my life.